Welcome to another episode of 5 Sports. I'm your host, Evan Rudenberg. Alongside me, as always, is Matthew Choi. We had an exciting week in the NFL. Week three did not fail to disappoint. A lot of upsets, a few close calls, and definitely some last minute drives. I'm going to break it all down for you right here. Matthew, I do want to start with the Thursday night game this week, the battle of two number one overall picks, Joe Burrow and Trevor Lawrence. Now we're getting to see Joe Burrow fresh off the injury, playing really well. Great second half comeback. What did you make of last night's game?
I think I think we're really seeing Joe Burrow kind of become that quarterback that we were kind of hoping. We've seen glimpses of it last season. I think having a kind of a stronger receiving core this season, like we see highlights of Tyler Boyd and T Higgins last year. I think adding in Jamar Chase and like what he was able to do as a receiver has also been a plus. We weren't sure about Jamar Chase coming in because there are reports that he couldn't properly see the ball well at the white stripes, and there are a lot of things like he's not as good as he was in college. There's a lot of kind of concerns about that, but he has kind of improving himself these like first few weeks, and I think Joe Burrow has a proper receiving core around him to kind of help him develop as a quarterback. I think it's a young group of receivers generally, and I think they were able to kind of like develop together and make this offense like kind of uh, serviceable for a team. And I think that's something that Jacksonville has been lacking. I think we haven't seen Trevor Lawrence really do so well so far. I think last night's game might have been one of his better games, but I think goes to saying that the Jacksonville team overall hasn't really provided him with a situation for him to actually thrive in. And I think overall, the Bengals looked like a better team than Jacksonville did, and Joe Burrow looked like the more better first overall pick.
It was definitely a game of two halves. I mean, we saw it was definitely a struggle for Cincinnati offensively in that first half, but that last minute stand, it was crucial in order for them to kind of establish a second half comeback. But Joe Burrow was dialed in that second half. I mean,
Yeah,
he did not miss a throw. Everything was on point accurate. He looked like a seasoned veteran out there, and it's just not something. I mean, you expected, especially after that first half, but it's what you expect out of Joe Burrow, and that's the standards we saw at LSU, and that's the standards that he brought to the game yesterday. And just to talk about Trevor Lawrence, I think he's being brought out a little bit by Urban Meyer. I don't think. I think when you have a coach adjusting from college to NFL and just having all these problems, there's problems in the media. People are saying that the veteran Jaguars players aren't really understanding the game plan. And I mean, look, they've lost 19 straight games, and that's a hard sell.
hey,
And
they weren't satisfied with 0-1.
yeah, I mean, look, they were they were 1-0 last year. Never forget that they started out 1-0 being the
One
Houston
no, one
Texans.
no.
They started out 1-0. Yeah, would you believe it? But it's hard to put all the blame on Urban Meyer because you feel like it's just been so poorly run from top to bottom. But give him another year, give him another draft class, let him add, some pieces on the offense, the defense. Because Trevor Lawrence, I was impressed, but I can't be overly impressed by him just because he just doesn't have the weapons and he feels like he doesn't have the tools right now to be a great QB, but we have seen limited turnovers. That's what really hurt them in the first 3 weeks, especially against Arizona. They had a chance. They had all the momentum going in the half with that incredible kick return touchdown because Arizona decided it was a good idea to try a 66-yard attempt. We only know there's one kicker in the league that could hit that. Talk about that in a bit, but Jacksonville has some problems, and they'll be a easy beat for the rest of the year they don't if if Urban Meyer can't really figure out a solid game plan. Like it feels like max 2 wins right now, just looking at the rest of their schedule. But Cincinnati, they're off to a great start. Defensively, they've definitely improved. They've invested heavily there. And that O line, I thought maybe they should draft an O lineman instead of taking Jamar Chase, but it looks like they've in free agency they addressed that. Joe Burrow's had his protection. Jacksonville got to him a few times, but I think they're young. They'll kind of mature as the season goes along. Jamar Chase is being fantastic. Tyler Boyd, we know what he brings. They got weapons. And CJ Uzama, that was a star yesterday. 2 touchdowns. He looked like a man possessed. You couldn't tackle that guy. So Cincinnati is a good thing going. And when you have a QB as elite as Joe Burrow, that's why you take him at number one. He's the guy that's gonna give you wins. He's a difference maker, and we'll only see him develop and get better as the season goes along.
Yeah, completely agree with you.
Speaking of 66 yarders that go in. Justin Tucker. Let's go to Baltimore because we have to talk about the Ravens as you are a Baltimore fan. What did you not like from that game? Because there's definitely things you can pick apart from Baltimore's performance against a weak Detroit team.
Oh, I didn't like. Well, for starters, I didn't like Marquise Brown, dropping a lot of passes, like twice, huge passes that could have really like pushed ratings forward. He kind of blew on them. I think there's an issue with Lamar and Marquise. Like we know that Lamar at times can throw very well at times, and we know Marquise can catch very like clutch passes, but it's the times that they don't connect is when like it really sticks out, especially in these kind of key moments. Especially since we're praising Marquise on his improvement in like catching the ball like last week against the Chiefs because he caught a
You
lot of
were,
key passes.
but
I was praising him because he caught a lot of key passes in that game, but he missed a lot of key ones this game, and now it's kind of concerned of was last week just sort of write off? Was it just like a one time thing where you saw him connecting well? Because the last game against Troy, they looked a lot more like they did last season when they were both having kind of these issues. I think Will Lamar, like we already know the stuff that he needs to improve on. It's always going to be there. It's kind of the question of Lamar is his running ability ever going to be enough to like mitigate the fact that his passing ability isn't the strongest? Because again, we know that he at times he can pass, but the question is, can he always do consistently enough? Which is always going to be a question. And our defense has to definitely not collapse against a team like the Lions. The Lions don't have good offense other than DeAndre Swift. There is nothing to really ride home about the Lions offense. And a lot of things are to blame. Like the offense couldn't get much going that the last like second half, and because that our defense was on a lot, and then the Lions was kind of just like work on momentum and score on us. But we can't have a game against a team like Detroit being that close. If Ravens want to be a playoff team, a game like Detroit should not come down to a 66-yard field goal kick. Thankfully, Justin Tucker was kicking the 66-yard field goal kick, and Justin Tucker is simply the greatest kicker to ever play the game. I believe that he is the greatest player in football right now. Like, if you take Justin Tucker and Patrick Mahomes, I'll argue that Justin Tucker is better at kicker
okay.
than Mahomes is at being a quarterback, and I will argue with
Okay.
you.
Okay.
Obviously, I'm exaggerating a lot here,
Yeah,
but
I'm not going to touch that. But I'm going to talk about what worries me with Baltimore. When they play on the road, I've noticed they struggle as a road team. Lamar Jackson definitely, I think, plays a hand in that. We could ignore, or we can't ignore the Marquise Brown drop. So we kind of
yeah.
put that aside for a second and kind of analyze the entire game from a Baltimore perspective. I just feel like they struggle on the road, and they've been doing that for the last 2 years. They need to learn how to put teams away that just aren't good. In Detroit, like they have some piece on defense. They're clearly playing hard for Dan Campbell because whatever that guy eats, he's always fired up. So it definitely, I would assume that has a knock-on effect on the rest of the team. Playing at home, Detroit's winless. They just got beat by Green Bay, and they saw an opportunity, and Baltimore just let them hang around. Marquise Brown, dropping it, multiple times. But I think the real big one was at the end of the half, about 30 seconds left, and it's just right in his hands. Lamar Jackson couldn't have placed anywhere better. And Marquise Brown, the infection of drop passes, he caught that bug. So he has to definitely work on that. He has to work on consistency. He's just reminding me of Nelson Aguilar right now. Plenty of
Yeah.
speed, plenty of separation. But last year we saw time and time again. We saw it 2 years ago with the Eagles, last year with the Raiders. Just you can't drop balls as an NFL receiver. You can have all the speed you want, but if you're not catching it, there's too many good DBs. They don't give you many opportunities. If you have that opportunity, if you find that space, you have to execute. But just on Baltimore, they'll be a playoff team. But again, the same things always worry about me. If they're going to have to go on the road in a playoff game against a tough team, if maybe you have to go to the Chargers this year, maybe you have to play the Chiefs. I mean, there's good teams in the AFC, and when I look at Baltimore, I don't think they match up because defensively, I think they lost 2 or 3 players.
I
And
mean, we lost like Marcus Peters, who was like our second best cornerback after Marlon Humphrey, I'd say. We
mhm.
lost Jimmy Smith, who's our third best cornerback, and we lost a lot of guys, like a couple guys, like just in the depth of their defense. So like we're definitely we aren't what we were defensively last season.
Yeah,
We lost a few key pieces, but like And look,
Baltimore still they still have a very good defense.
have
I'd put
very
them in
good.
the
They're
top
still a
10.
very good defense,
The problem
but
is there's a lot of good defenses in the
yeah,
AFC, and there's a lot of good offenses. So like there's plenty of time for Baltimore to improve, but as we saw in previous years, he has to do it late in the year, and he has to kind of build that momentum. Look, for all we know, that Detroit game kind of kickstarts Baltimore, gives them all the momentum. Sometimes, a game against a bad team where you just escape, we've seen time and time again, that can kind of just elevate a team, that could just kind of
yeah.
get them going. But they're definitely concerns for Baltimore, and they definitely have to work on execution on offense. You have to get rid of the silly mistakes that we saw. And if you have a bad team in front of you, you got to kill them. And we see all the good teams do that, and that's Baltimore's challenge for the rest of the year.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think a key thing is like even though the Ravens won this game, players like Lamar and Marquise can't see this as oh, it's good we won this game. It has to be more like a wake up call for them as this game was this close
Yeah, they should
because
have
we didn't
lost.
deliver.
They should have lost, but when you have a
Yeah.
Hall of Fame kicker, sometimes that's all you need in the NFL.
Hey, greatest kicker of all time,
No
I'm just
doubt.
saying.
No, there's no doubting it. Let's switch to my team, the Dallas Cowboys. Big win Monday night against the Eagles. Eagles just flat out didn't come out to play, didn't look very good. Dallas had their way offensively, defensively. They showed up. Partly maybe because Philadelphia isn't a very good offense, but partly that defense is looking much improved under Dan Quinn.
Yeah, the Cowboys defense have been a huge surprise to me this season. They've looked somehow very solid. I think that's to say
I think
like
that's the exact way to describe it.
yeah, like they're I don't consider the most elite defense in the league, far
No, no,
from it.
no,
But
no, no.
we saw them single handedly tank the Cowboys last season,
hmm
and now we see kind of them calming the team. We could kind of like see them like we know what the offense can do, and the defense is able to hold together for the offense to still kind of thrive while pushing the offense to have to do too much. The offense can just do what they do best, and the defense is there, making the stops that they need them to.
Yeah, it was impressive. Really, if Philadelphia doesn't get that early touchdown off, it's just really a Dak error, basically handing the ball to Fletcher Cox. Philadelphia didn't have much offense. They had no offense in that first half, and you get some garbage time points late in the game. No one ever worried about Dallas kind of giving away. Despite defensively being in control, they're also in control offensively. Ran the ball down the throats of Philadelphia. They had no answer to Zeke or Tony Pollard. CeeDee Lamb made a few good catches. They used Dalton Schultz really well at tight end. He made some big catches, 2 touchdowns. He was just in the right place, and having Dak healthy. Having Dak healthy is just huge,
Yeah.
because we saw how good he was in his rookie season when they finished first in the NFC, just lost to Green Bay. That Mason Crosby field goal. I'll never forget that. I'll never forget any Green Bay playoff game in the last 10 years involving Dallas, but that's a different point. Just Dak, he looks very in control, and I worried about the ankle. I worried about the mobility, but he seems fine. He seems confident. It looks like the injury's kind of in the back burner. It doesn't seem like it's playing a mental toll on him. He's firing the
Yeah.
ball, really well. I mean, he looks dialed in, and when you look at all the QBs in the league, Dak Prescott's putting himself back in the elite tier, because I think he is that good, and we almost forgot because maybe he's on Dallas. He was injured last year. He has his weapon, so maybe it's hard to judge. But he leads by example. He is the leader of this team. He will be, the the top tier captain on this offense very soon, and I'm very confident just watching the Cowboys. They played 3 solid games, lost the Buccaneers opening day, but that's in Tampa.
Yeah.
You lose by a field goal. Defense still played very well. You can't be perfect against the Tom Brady of that offense. I mean, that's wishful thinking, but everyone showed up on defense. Dan Quinn has them playing really well. Long live the backwards hat and Dan Quinn, because until his juice stops working, I'm supporting him to the hills. It's funny. I'm thinking, should I give Mike McCarthy credit, or should I give credit to Kellen Moore and Dan Quinn? Do I just give all the credit to the coordinators, or I just assume that Mike McCarthy's kind of there? Kellen Moore is being the creative mastermind on offense. Dan Quinn's leading the defense, and Mike McCarthy is just a cheerleader. That's kind of how I'm seeing it right now. If I'm being completely honest. That's kind
Look,
of the vibe I'm
you,
getting. But credit to Mike McCarthy, because they really haven't put a bad foot forward, and he is the head coach, and the head coach not an easy job, and he deserves a lot of praise for the work he has done 3 weeks into the season.
I've never been the biggest fan of Mike McCarthy. Even when he first got hired, I wasn't really sold that he would make a huge difference on the Cowboys. But if a team is playing well, that goes to everyone in the organization. Everyone on the coaching and staff. And yeah, look, I'm not the biggest Cowboys fan, but there's even I gotta admit, there's a lot to like about the Cowboys right now, and I have the utmost respect for how Dak Prescott was able to come back this season. I just gotta say that. Like a huge shout out to Dak. I've got a newfound respect for him just like watching the way he's come back.
And there's always a few guys, in any sport that no matter what team they're on,
Yeah.
they're just a likable guy. You don't root against the guy. Justin Tucker, maybe for me in Baltimore, I don't root against him. He just seems like a great guy. And sometimes when you have a like that, it's you watch it not. But Dak Prescott, he's also one of those guys. I feel like it's very hard to root against. Even the biggest Dallas. If you're a New York Giants fan, if you're an Eagles fan, if you're a Redskins fan, if you're really a fan of any team in the NFL, you don't like the Dallas Cowboys. But Dak Prescott, yeah, there's just everything that we can say about him has been said. I mean, I said it before, he leads by example. Just the ultimate pro, fourth round every day, comes in with something to prove. And that's just the attitude you need to see in the NFL. And that's something that he's brought to this team. And yeah, they're firing on all cylinders. And as a Cowboys fan, I could not be happier. But if you're a Chiefs fan, I think you have a little bit of concern right now. Losing to the Chargers, now 1-2. I want to ask you, Matthew, is their defense good enough to lead them back to Super Bowl? Can Patrick Mahomes do it all by himself? Because right now that defense is looking a little leaky.
I think something we should acknowledge about the defense is the teams that they lost to are good offenses.
Yep.
Like the Ravens and of course the Chargers. Of course, Ravens have their issues on offense, but overall they are a strong offense.
We've seen the Ravens, at their best. And when they're at their best, they can be very good.
Yeah, and the Chargers, Justin Herbert's probably one of the better young QBs in the league right now. He has a huge future ahead of him.
Yeah.
The Chiefs' defense is definitely not elite. It's not a top tier defense right now by the looks of it. I think it's good enough to not stop the Chiefs making another deep run because the defense has to be horrendous to be able to stop that offense from carrying this team to far in the playoffs. I think it's good enough to not tank them. I'll say that. I think we have to see them more throughout the season. I feel like it's too early to judge still. I think we got to see them play against other teams as well, not teams that are kind of playing at their best to make sure that the Chiefs lose. I think we were going to see other teams play at the best that the Chiefs defense will still be able to hold. And I think there's some stuff we have to see. It's too early to judge right now, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, you can also look at the turnover bug. The first half, I think there's three or four fumbles. It was just really a mess from Kansas City. So you kind of look at something and say that's unorthodox for them. But you can't expect Patrick Mahomes to be superhuman every week. You could expect it maybe most weeks. Yeah. But when you get down to nitty gritty, we like foreshadowing a little bit. We assume this is going to be a playoff team, because we did mention they've played two very tough teams that they've lost to. These are games in the past they would win. So again, maybe it's a little bit of kick in the ass for the Chiefs. A little bit of reminder, Andy Reid going to the hospital. We hope he's okay. Yeah. We think he's okay, but you have to be careful early on that you don't get into a hole that you have to climb out of. You want to, rectify these errors really early. And we know offensively they have a talented Chiefs, and luckily they have a favorable game to kind of erase the memories of the last 2 weeks. It's just defensively, we say defense wins championships. When we saw the Bucs last year, they had a great offense, but what made them just kill the Chiefs defensively, they had a great game plan. They were all over them, and in the playoffs, the Bucs didn't give anyone an inch on either side of the ball. So I don't see the Chiefs being that team this year, and I worry if they play a tough playoff team. When you get into the playoffs, just one win and you're out. There's no second chances. It's not like the regular season. You lose, you go back next week, and you could kill the Eagles. But you're the AFC. It's not a joke this year, and I
It's
do
not.
worry. I do worry about the Chiefs. I don't like what I'm seeing, and if I were to make a prediction now, like I think they could be out in the second round of the playoffs. I don't like what they're doing. I don't think they took the offseason very seriously. For whatever reason, they have Frank Clark playing DN instead of D tackle,
Mm.
and he just looks like a shadow of himself. I think they've had a coaching problem on the defensive side of the ball, and I think their secondary is leaking a lot of yards to some of those wide receivers. So Mike Williams had his way with the Chiefs last week. That is a concern, and that's something if I'm a Chiefs fan, I'm worried about. I am extremely worried. They do not look very good.
No, I agree with you, but
Take
I
away
also
take away Patrick Mahomes from that team. I mean, they have a special QB and they look average.
yes. That being said, saying taking away Patrick Mahomes is taking away a lot from a team because I mean it is Patrick Mahomes. I think people are kind of reacting a little much because I think what we've seen is normally what we see is Casey will lose like a few games later, midway through the season or later in the season. I think because it's happened so early, people are more kind of shocked by it. I think how they adapt from this will be kind of more of a telling sign. Like, if they let this kind of, make sure they don't lose later in the season as they normally would, or if they'll be a team that kind of falls from losing this early. If this ends up being a landslide for them, or it kind of goes falling slope for them. Like I think that's something we'll have to judge as the season goes. I think if anything, the bigger story of this is how shocking it is that they lost 2 games in a row this early
Mhm.
in the season because that really isn't something we expect to see from the Chiefs. We expect the season to start with them thinking, oh, can they go like 6-0? Or I guess in this case 17-0. But
Yeah.
in this case, it's a lot more. It's a lot more kind of judging of, oh, now they're starting off 1-2. Well, what's the record going to be? Kind of for, are they going to extend these loss record, or are they going to not lose again for the rest of the season? It could kind of go like either way with this team.
Yeah, that's a fair point. We're definitely going to keep an eye on the Chiefs. Let's switch over to another generational QB towards the back end of his career. Aaron Rodgers, they escape the 49ers in a very similar fashion that we saw Baltimore do on a last second field goal, 37 seconds left for Aaron Rodgers. That's all the time he needed to give Mason Crosby into field goal position. And he nailed it. But again, 49ers put up a tough fight. We see they have maybe some quarterback issues. They're struggling maybe a little bit for identity. Kyle Shanahan, he's an offensive mastermind. He's going to put
Yeah.
points on the board. What did you make of the game as a whole?
I I was impressed with how well the 49ers were able to do offensively, despite the fact that Jimmy G did not look very good. I'm kind of amazed that that Jimmy G is still the quarterback this season. I expected that they'll pass the role on to Trey Lance, but I mean, like you said, Kyle Shanahan knows what he's doing, and there must be a reason for it. I think what the tongue sound was. This was more surprising that it was this close because of the injuries that uh you know 49ers are missing
Yeah.
Raheem Mostert.
Yep.
It's a huge running back for them. They don't look the best at quarterback. And despite how good Caution is, when you compare the offenses of Green Bay and 49ers, you immediately just pick Green Bay overall because the Aaron Rodgers, we know what Devonta Adams is able to do. We know what Aaron Jones is able to do. But I think what we've seen from Green Bay this year is they aren't the same team. They are a team that's good enough. I think they're still a playoff team. I still think that they're contenders, but there is a bit of a drop off from where they were last season. And I think this game I think these past 2 games in particular. The first game was kind of just like a huge. I think I was right. I don't think we'll see them as bad as they were in that first game again. I think last week we saw them look slightly better. Or no, look, I'm looking about miles better than they were the first
Yeah.
week. And I
Yeah.
think this week what we saw is kind of what I'm expecting from this season to be not as explosive as they were in the previous years, but still good enough to win games.
Yeah. I think that's perfect. I mean, look, Aaron Rodgers wins you games on his own because he's Aaron Rodgers and he just has this freak ability to hit anyone and anyone anywhere. I mean, let's just go back to that one touchdown pass where he just put it on a plate to Robert Tonyan right over the linebacker's ear. If you're watching Monday night, or not Monday Night Football, if you're watching the Eli Manning pay show, you just saw like the awe Eli Manning had for that one toss. It's just, I mean, to locate that ball to put it exactly where it needed to be, right over the linebacker's shoulder. I mean, I've seen him do it against the Cowboys. I've seen him do it against everyone in the league. It's just a talent that doesn't go away, and he just has he has an eye for that. Aaron Rodgers. That's what makes him one of the, like, let's say, top 3 quarterbacks of all time. I think Green Bay is the most overrated team in the league. I really do, because I think defensively they're so average. Like they let San Francisco hang. They let San Francisco hang 28 points on them. Not very good, especially after a slow first half where then they put up 7. I just feel like late in games, they're just so susceptible to big plays, to good offenses putting points on them. I don't like Green Bay. I think, look, they had Detroit week 2. If you lose to Detroit, Baltimore didn't. But if you lose to Detroit, you can't lose to that team. It looks so bad against the Saints. And if we're being honest, I don't think the Saints are that special. I think they're extremely well coached. I think they have a great defense, but offensively, minus maybe Alvin Kamara, I think they're still learning a lot about themselves. And Jameis Winston's
they're a team
learning a
that's
lot.
adapting to like a new kind of
Yeah.
era for themselves.
So I'm just not very impressed by Green Bay, and I just see like all these power rankings, and like they're 3rd or 4th or 2nd. I'm like, what the hell are you guys talking about?
No,
I'm like, are they even in the top 10? Like, with all due respect, they probably kind of sneak in that top 10. I look at them, I'm so uninspired by them. I mean, minus like Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams, best 1-2 punch in the league for me, but you can't win off a 1-2 punch. This is the NFL, and I just think defensively, we'll see it every time in the playoffs. We've seen it with better defenses on Green Bay. They make the playoffs, NFC Championship game, NFC wildcard round, lose. Aaron Rodgers heroics, lose the next round, beat the Cowboys, lose to Atlanta, get blown out by the Falcons in a championship game, inexcusable. Last year, they just lost the Bucs, but then again, margins are fine in the NFL. And you say maybe the Green Bay could have won it if they get a call. I'm forgetting off the top of my head what the call was. I kind of screwed Green Bay last year, but
I saw that they didn't get a call earlier on, but then they got a
yeah,
call for something even less later on.
yeah, it may have been like a PI. Could have been. I'm thinking now it's PI, but anyways, we could discuss this another time. Green Bay will do the same thing they do every single year, and if they win the Super Bowl, I can easily hold my hands up and apologize. And I love Aaron Rodgers. I think if anyone can carry Green Bay to a Super Bowl again, it is him. But I've just seen time and time again, I just don't think they're well coached enough. I think Matt LaFleur is massively overrated as a head coach. They got rid of Mike McCarthy. Everyone is all on this Matt LaFleur hype train. What's he done? He hasn't done any better than Mike McCarthy. I think they're just a very predictable team, and they'll win games close, they'll lose games close, and they'll be in the playoffs one way or another. But what are they really going to do in the playoffs? I just think there's better teams out there, and you need an Aaron Rodgers hero show every single time. And it's just, you can't ask for him to play hero every single game. It's just not the reality that we live in the NFL.
I mean, look, he was upfront and saying that he didn't want to play for Green Bay.
And he doesn't want to be there. Like, or he wants to be. Okay, it's like, does he want to be there?
I mean, look,
no,
if he doesn't,
but
you can't blame
he's definitely not. He's not, going out there and trying to lose. That's what I know about Aaron Rodgers.
He's not phoning it in because he wants to win. Everyone knows how competitive Aaron Rodgers is, but I think it's clear why he wanted to leave was because Green Bay really haven't placed him in a situation for him to win, and I think that's kind of the issue here.
Yeah, look, drafting Jordan Love is by far the dumbest draft move I have ever seen in the. I mean, there have been some pretty bad picks, but drafting a QB to replace one of the greatest of all time in the first round when you needed a player on defense, you could have given him any. I mean, even if you give him another offensive weapon, but to draft his replacement, all-time bonehead move. But speaking of other boneheaded moves, let's talk about the Bears head coach, Matt Nagy. It was an embarrassment on offense. I think 47 total yards on offense for the Chicago Bears. That's what the number was. I mean, it just looked like they had no game plan for him. And I just it seems unexplainable what happened to them.
This is a problem I've had with the Bears for a long time because I do like a lot of players on the Bears offense. I really like Dave Montgomery. I like
Mhm.
Allen Robinson, and I was really hoping I have really high hopes for Justin Fields. But what I've seen from the Bears for the last few seasons is that the coaching is so,
It's
as you
not
would say,
it. It's just not there.
it's just not there. It's uninspiring. It's just it feels like the team looks very dry. Like it
Mhm.
looks very like it lacks any kind of like direction
There's
with
no energy and there's no
no
intensity
energy.
when they play. I mean, just Miles Garrett had his way. I think he had 4 sacks
Yeah.
against. I mean, the O line should be doing better, but I don't think they want to be there. They look so dead. I mean, it wasn't even competition for Cleveland. I mean, they stopped trying in the second half. It was
Yeah.
already game over. They started preparing for next week. They're doing their rundowns. I don't know who they play this week, but they're already in the mindset to play the Vikings this week. They were in their minds were in Chicago after that first half. They said, "Done and dusted. Let's move on. Give the ball to the running backs and let them do their thing." It was just like it was just so easy for the Browns, and it was I think the most predictable game, or like from a predicted sorry, from an expected outcome point of view. Um, Justin Fields. Let's just look at the stats: 6 for 20, 68 yards. Yeah, that's not going to cut it in the NFL, will it?
No, it won't. It will not. I don't want to write him off yet. He's young.
I'm not
He's
writing him off. I'm writing the Bears off. I'm writing I'm writing off Matt Nagy and Ryan
yeah,
Pace. They're done. They're not winning anything.
yeah. And until unless they can make a change soon, I'm worried that they will ruin Justin Fields' potential career because he's a young quarterback. He needs this time to kind of develop into a player that he'll be. We've seen young quarterbacks who weren't able to thrive because of a bad situation they've been put in, and if they don't fix things up on the Bears soon, players like Dave Montgomery, like Justin Fields, Allen
Allen
Robinson,
Robinson still sitting there. Yeah.
yeah, they aren't going to go far because of
Khalil
this
Mack. Let's not
offense.
forget about Khalil Mack.
Oh
That's
yeah,
a
defense.
special
Well,
player. Yeah, defensively, look, they have pieces.
but they can't. They aren't going to win because the offense can't get things going.
That's very true. Let's switch over to an offense that can get things going. Let's talk about the Rams for a little bit. Great performance against the Bucks. They're contenders, but I don't know how to phrase this question. What are your expectations for the LA Rams after the first 3 weeks?
They are, and this was the case before the first 2 weeks. They are my personal favorites to go to the Super Bowl this season. I think Matthew Stafford. I think he has been a kind of an underrated quarterback for many years.
100%. Mm-hmm.
I think ever since he lost Megatron, I think people kind of like roll him off a bit because he didn't really have the most weapons to work with. I think his best weapons in between like Megatron and now was like probably Golden Tate, Marvin Jones, which they aren't those aren't like receivers that are going to help you get to Super Bowl. I think giving him players like Cooper Kupp and like Robert Woods, you're finally seeing Stafford kind of go back to being that quarterback that people could see as a genuine threat. I think people are kind of seeing what he really can do. He's definitely a step, entire tier ahead of what Jared Goff was for the offense. I think Sean McVay, even as a young coach, he's one of the best coaches in the league right now. And I just think both offensively and defensively, there's not really much weakness on the Rams. And I can't see them. Of course, in football anything can happen, but I don't see any like distinguishable reason on why they can't be the top team in the league.
Yeah, it would take a major injury to one of those key players. I mean, Matt Stafford, a Cooper Kupp, Jalen Ramsey,
Yeah.
and Aaron Donald. But those are really like the 4 guys. I mean, when you have those 4 guys, those are 4 elite players, and two. I think Donald and Ramsey are 2 of the top 3 in their position.
Oh yeah,
Aaron
for
Donald's
sure.
definitely. I mean, Aaron Donald's definitely the best D end in the league. I mean, you look at maybe TJ Watt the come up, but
I'll argue that Aaron
The
Donald's best
consistency
defensive
from
player
Aaron
in the league.
Donald. Yeah, I'm maybe going to go down as the best defensive player of all time.
Yeah.
I mean, just a freak athlete, and he's always disrupting other teams' quarterbacks, or he's always blowing up rushing attempts. I mean, he's just an animal. But yeah, it's hard to pick a flaw from what we've seen from the Rams so far this year. They've got off to a great start at home, just dismantled the Bucks. They had a game plan. Sean McVeigh, clearly one of the best coaches in the NFL. His mind just works differently, and they're playing for him and they're playing hard. You're right. The Rams could make the Super Bowl. Again, a tough NFC. I think slightly weaker than the AFC, but I mean, there's going to be some teams and there's going to be some
The
challenges.
NFL is
And
always gonna be close.
yeah, there's going to be some challenges, I think, later on in the season for the Rams, but I think they'll continue to ride that hot streak, and maybe they'll take a loss from a good team to maybe slow them down. But I mean, they look like they're not going to lose more than maybe 3 or 4 games,
Yeah.
and that's a scary team. I completely agree. Tough division they're in. They'll have some tough division
They are in a tough
matches,
division. I think it's the best
but
division in the league right now, I'd say.
yeah, Rams, Cardinals. Yeah. We got the Seahawks in there as well. Yes. I'm
Seahawks
thinking of the
there
right division.
and
Yeah,
49ers.
Rams and the 49ers. So yeah, 4 very good teams. I mean, when you consider the entire division and you look at it and maybe say the 49ers are the weakest team, that's not a very weak team to
You
have.
can argue that one team will win the division and the other three will be the wild cards. Like that
Yeah,
is a possibility.
it's very possible. So let's not take away anything from what the Rams have done so far. It's been brilliant, but let's see how they continue on. But yeah, so far so good for the LA Rams. We have one more game that we have to focus on, Matthew. It's a team in your division, a team that struggled horribly on offense. Do you know who I'm thinking of?
Oh yeah, and I am. I can't tell you how happy I am about this. The Steelers' offense struggling after a decade of seeing this team with Antonio Brown, Le'Veon Bell, and all these players. Like,
Hines Ward, you can maybe throw in there. Let's check him
yeah,
out.
just seeing how bad this team looks offensively, and it's so satisfying to see, and like no disrespect to Ben Roethlisberger because we know what he's done in his career, how
Yeah.
great he's been, but he's just not there anymore. It's time for him to retire.
Like, I don't know who's drunk on that team. I don't know if it's Big Ben. I don't know if it's Mike Tomlin. I mean, I don't know if Mike Tomlin was forced to throw basically checkdowns on every single
Yeah,
play. I mean, just this the second the second quarter started, after watching the first quarter, I knew Cincinnati won that game.
yeah.
I knew they won that game the second quarter started after watching that first second half. And you maybe you're thinking the Steelers, can they come back? Not at all. Just I mean
The
that one
team looks
throw
so
where
stagnant.
I'm just thinking of the one throw that Big Ben just threw right into Logan Wilson's hands. I mean, I just don't know what he was thinking. I don't know if he was high. I don't know if he was drunk. I don't know if he was both. Just unexplainable what happened in Pittsburgh, not only against Cincinnati, but against Vegas. And I think we
Yeah.
maybe thought, Vegas beat Baltimore. They're actually a good team. They have a good defense. They're not that good of a defense. We
Yeah.
saw them struggle a little bit against Miami, against a backup. Miami is very well coached, and that's really the difference. Miami right now has a QB that could throw more than 20 yards downfield. And Pittsburgh, I don't know how they're going to look this week against Green Bay. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know if Big Ben's shoulder is going to magically heal. I don't know if he'll be able to throw more than 30 yards. But I don't see this team winning any games anytime soon with an offense that bad.
I mean, look, the only offensive threat on this team is arguably Najee Harris because, like,
I mean, they have threats, but they're just not being able to. They
I mean,
can't be utilized.
Rosberg can only throw for like 5 yards, so like, it can only go to Najee
Exactly.
Harris.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. The only current weapon that's that they can actually apply in their offense.
yeah,
I get your point is Najee Harris. Yeah, I mean they keep running slants over the middle, like they try to get Deontay Johnson involved. Chase Claypool, it looks frustrated. Juju Smith-Schuster, I mean, he doesn't really look frustrated. He just looks tired. It looks like he wants to be on TikTok, to be honest. Juju's, whenever I watch him, it looks like his mentality just isn't, isn't right, isn't screwed on correctly. But I mean, Juju, there's definitely talent in there, and I don't know if he just feels maybe like he can't do anymore. Yeah, Pittsburgh has some problems, and they're not going away anytime soon because look at their backups. It's Dwayne Haskins.
Yeah, we know what he's not able to do.
It's just I don't see Pittsburgh winning many games this year. They are the worst team in your division. So
Yeah, I agree.
Cincinnati, congratulations on no longer being the laughing stock of the NFC or the AFC North. Also, credit to the Cleveland Browns. They used to be the laughing stock, but they're on their rise. They look like the top dogs now. So it's going to be a fun watch to watch the NFC North. That's Cincinnati 3-1, so they're off to a flyer. They're going to be definitely competing for a wild card spot this year. And so it's really going to be between Cincinnati, Baltimore, and Cleveland. That's going to be a fun race to watch. I'm
Yeah.
excited to watch the rest of the AFC North. But let's switch over to all the games this week. Let's make our predictions. I think it was a bit of a struggle for us last week. I think we both ended up with, I think, winning records. But I think this week it's a lot. It's going to be harder to predict. I don't. I should keep our records on hand, but I don't have it this week. So we'll keep track next week and give a combined score for the first 2 weeks.
Okay.
So that's our apologies on that. But Matthew, let's start with the Tennessee Titans with the New York Jets. So I'll give you a little lob to start. Just smash one home. Who's gonna win this one?
Titans. I don't even love the Titans, but they're better than the Jets.
Yeah, Tennessee should hammer the Jets. Derrick Henry should run all over this team.
Yeah.
Yeah, if the Jets win, I don't know what I'm going to do with myself. Lions Bears. This one's a tough game to call.
Oh, my goodness. I think I'll go with. I'll go the Bears. I think. I think both offenses aren't great. I think May Lions is marginally looks more competent than the Bears did last week. But I think the Bears defense is better. I think because of defense, I'll give a very small edge to the Bears.
Yeah, I have to go with the Lions for the coach. I just think they'll be more prepared. I think defensively the Lions look very good. I think they have an onus on getting I think younger and quicker on defense. You could look at Jeff Okudah. Unfortunately rupturing his Achilles week 1, but against Baltimore, I think they kept Baltimore at bay for large periods of that game. They understood what the game plan was. Stop the run, limit the pass, and Marquise Brown could have hurt them, but didn't. So I think they have pieces there that they could work on. I just don't think I don't see Chicago having the pieces and having the threats to really truly hurt Chicago. I mean, look, it feels like a low scoring game because just two dysfunctional teams with defenses that are much better than the offense.
Yeah.
Which is not hard to do if you're the Chicago Detroit defense, but it is possible. I think Detroit's offense is slightly better with Jared Goff. I think he got slightly more comfortable in the first 3 weeks. I think he will be a good quarterback for the Lions. I have to take Detroit here. I can't bet on the Bears. What I saw, I feel like it would just be a fool's move to go with the Bears any game this season. This is another tough one. The 0-3 Indianapolis Colts versus the Miami Dolphins. Instead of 1-2.
I'm gonna go. I gotta go with the Dolphins. I think I said last week that Colts are due for like a win, but like I just think Miami look even without like Tua, like they've looked like a kind of a better team than the Colts have. I haven't been a fan of the way the Colts been looking, especially last week. I'm not writing off the Colts completely, but I think I'm gonna go Miami.
Yeah, I completely agree. Which is why I'm picking Indianapolis. It feels like you're right there, due for a win. Miami, they played a great game against Vegas last week. Defensively, really kept them in, and late fourth quarter surge. And they made some key plays. 4th and 20 in overtime, kept them alive until Vegas killed it off eventually. In the final drive of that overtime. Yeah, everything's telling them Miami should win. They're at home, but a team as talented as Indianapolis, when they're due for a win, sometimes they just get a win when you least expect it. So I'm not picking the Colts because I think they're a better team right now. I just think they'll have maybe that ounce of luck that will propel them to beat the Miami Dolphins. But again, I think it's going to be a tight game either way you look at it. So I'll have the Colts just because I think the Dolphins are going to win. Tough game. Browns versus Vikings. Vikings have been a mixed bag. Struggled a little bit against Cincinnati. Looked fantastic last week against Seattle. How do you see this one going?
Do we know if Dalvin Cook's back?
Let's assume he is. I think the tag on him is questionable right now. So let's assume he will play.
Okay, I think it'll be a close game, but I think if they have Dalvin Cook, I think that'll give the edge to Vikings.
I think the Browns are too good right now. I think they have a great two-headed attack at running back and Hunt and Chubb. And I think offensively they got weapons. There isn't many flaws on Cleveland, and I'm just not used to seeing this. But defensively, they have a lot of playmakers. Minnesota coming off a win, they may have a little too much hype. I think it'll be a close game. I think Cleveland's going to try to control the game, and we've seen Minnesota defensively being really solid this year. I think standouts being Eric Kendricks at linebacker. He's really controlled a lot of good things in Minnesota on the defensive side of the ball. So I'll say in a close game, maybe a 3 or 4 point game, Cleveland does win this game.
That's fair.
Washington Falcons. I don't know how this game's going to go. I mean, flip a coin. Matthew, what do you say? 1 and 2, the football
Washington.
team versus the Falcons. Yeah, the football team.
Washington. The Falcons looked.
I agree.
Their whole thing about the Falcons is they have is terrible defense, good offense, but their offense haven't even been looking that good this season.
Yeah, I don't know if their offense will give them enough. Washington, we know their defense will keep them in games. So if Atlanta can get off to a good start, then I worry about Washington coming back. But if it's a low-scoring game early on, then I think it's going to continue all the way through.
Matt Ryan hasn't been pressing me at all.
He hasn't, but I'll give Atlanta the edge because they're at home, coming off a win, maybe a little bit of confidence. I don't like this pick at all. I actually hate this pick, but I think Atlanta does have an edge in this game. So I have Atlanta. This one may be one of the more straightforward game of the week. Houston versus the Buffalo Bills. Okay, let's just move on. I got Bills. I think another pretty easy game to predict. Saints versus Giants. So we end the Saints.
Yeah, Saints.
Okay. Chiefs Eagles. Chiefs. Okay, let's move on. Panthers Cowboys. This one's a tough game to call. Panthers have looked great defensively. On offense, they struggled a little bit. No McCaffrey now for a few weeks. That's definitely going to hurt. Sam Darnold, that guy.
Look, I'm liking Sam Darnold quite a bit. I thought he got a little too much hate when he was on the Jets because I think because he was on the Jets, he looked worse than he was.
Yeah.
But I'm giving this to the Cowboys. I think the offense doesn't look as good without McCaffrey. I think we saw it last Thursday. When McCaffrey got off, like the offense looked a lot more, struggling a lot more than they were. And we know what Dallas offense can do. Their defense is better than they were last year. I feel like this should easily go to Cowboys personally.
I think the Cowboys could either win in a blowout or it could be a close game. I don't think the Panthers have enough the way the Cowboys are playing. I think again, if the Cowboys didn't have that defense they did, again, I would be predicting a really close game. I think if the Cowboys get off to a quick start, like we saw against Eagles, it could be a long day for the Panthers. But the way they played against the Saints, I have to keep that in mind. I do think the Cowboys will find a way to win just because that's what they're doing this year. But it wouldn't surprise me if the Panthers, had trick up their sleeve. If the Panthers need to, sorry, before I get my tongue twisted, I think whoever starts this game the best will win. I don't think it's a case of someone's going to come back. I think if the Panthers get off to a good start, I think they'll be able to control the ball enough to maybe limit Dallas. But I think the way Dallas is playing right now on both sides of the football, I have Dallas finding a way to win. I don't know how, because with the Cowboys, you never know how they're going to win. But I think you're right. The Cowboys, the way they're playing at home in Jerry's world, to find a way to win.
Yep.
This one is a tough game to call. San Francisco versus Seattle at San Francisco. Who do you like?
Wow. Because there's so many things
that could go either way
and don't like about both teams.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I'll give my prediction. I have Seattle. Russell Wilson coming off a loss. I hate Seattle's defense. I really do. They are just horrible. You can't have Minnesota carve you open like to Thanksgiving turkey. Inexcusable. But I think Pete Carroll and Russell Wilson, they always find a way to bounce back. Division rival. I think they know they have to show up for this game. I mean, if I'm a betting man, I'm hammering the over in this game because I think it's going to be points in this game. But I give Seattle the edge coming off a loss and maybe a 1 point game. Give me the Seahawks.
It's hard. I think I'm gonna give that to 49ers, because I think what we saw is they're able to do, despite their troubles with offense, they're able to do enough offensively. I think with the coaching,
they can mix and match, and they have enough creativity.
Yeah,
I definitely know what you mean.
And they have, I think, defensively, they're better than Seattle's defense.
I
I'll
think
give.
San Francisco can blow out Seattle. And that's what I worry about. I think they can. I just think with Russell Wilson,
Yeah, it's hard to bet against Russ,
it
because
feels
he
like the
will.
49ers should win, but I think Seattle will find a way to win this game. I could be completely wrong because I do think the
No,
49ers
that's
are just
fair.
they're much better. I think they're just better coach at this point. And defense wins games, and I just
Yeah.
think defensively San Francisco gives a lot of people trouble. But we saw last week, all you need all you need is to give a really good QB a little bit of time and a little bit of an opening. In Seattle, they have DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett, and they make plays. So
It really
if
can
Seattle,
go either way.
sorry, exactly. If Seattle doesn't start quickly, then I would be worried if San Francisco kind of puts up points early on in the first half.
Yeah.
I just have a gut feeling in my heart that Seattle will win this game.
It really can go either way. I'll just give the edge for now to the 49ers.
All right, fair enough. Another division game: Cardinals versus Rams. How do you like that one at LA? I have the Rams. I just think they're too good right now. It's not a pick I want to. It's not a pick I'm gonna overthink. I think Cardinals do have some problems to fix
Yeah.
defensively. I do think they have a lot of great defensive players, but I think they have to mesh a little more together. I think as long as the Rams keep doing what they're doing, it's gonna be a close game. I think a lot of people maybe expect the Rams are just gonna fly out in every game. That's just not the reality. Arizona is a great team. I think they've had their weaknesses, and I think the Rams will find a way to expose that.
I want to say I really want to say Cardinals because I really like Kyler Murray. I'm a huge fan of the way he plays.
Hmm.
But like I said, Rams to me is it looks like one of the best teams in the game right now, and
Yeah,
I think I have to give it to Rams.
I agree. Steelers Packers. I have the Packers because we talk about the Steelers. They suck.
Yeah, I look at the Packers. The Steelers defense they have some ability even without TJ Watt, but like if the offense can't get anything going, the defense coming back on to face Aaron Rodgers, they're not gonna be able to stop
Yeah,
that.
and the one thing I want to say about TJ Watt on the defensive line, I think they're missing three other starters on the D line. It's not that Pittsburgh has a bad defense or the rest of the defense is bad, but having a great D line and causing so much pressure allows that secondary to shine and
Yeah,
maybe look better than they have been. I think they do have good players on defense. But, when they lost a guy like Minka Fitzpatrick last year, I think that hurts. And I don't think they've fully replaced them. I do think they have talented players in the secondary. I don't think they're elite. And I think we saw that happen. Joe Burrow had plenty of time to throw the ball. There wasn't much pressure. Cincinnati had their way offensively. They were moving the ball great. And I think Aaron Rodgers should find a very similar kind of path to what
yeah,
Cincinnati was able to do. And I think they have better players or offensively at the very least with Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams.
yeah, I agree.
TJ Watt's healthy. Maybe the story changed a little bit, but Green Bay at home. Give me Green Bay. Your team, the Ravens at the Broncos, the 3-0 Broncos.
Maybe 3-0, but I'm still giving it to the Ravens.
I agree with you. Denver has to lose eventually.
Yeah,
It feels like it could be the game, but I'm not going to do it. I think Denver, as long as they are able to stop the run, I think they do have a great secondary. They have great players in that whole Bradley Chubb and Von Miller. I mean, two of the best linebackers in the game. I think Bradley Chubb and Von Miller are the best pair of linebackers any team on the NFL has. There's a reason they're 3-0, and it's going to be a tough game. It's going to be a low scoring. It's going to be a grinded out game, I feel. I think Denver just edges. It's not because I don't like Baltimore. I think what Denver is doing, and because they're at home with the altitude, I give a slight edge. I'm not trying to troll you, Matthew. I know
yeah,
you may
no,
think it.
yeah. Your argument's fair. Your
Uh,
argument's fair.
and Baltimore could easily win this game. These two teams, I think, will both be inconsistent in some games, and some games they'll look very good. And I think when they play each other, there'll be some inconsistencies and some things that work out for both teams. It could go either way, but just maybe for contradicting opinion, I'll give the edge to Denver. And I don't like giving that to Denver because I don't trust them, but I'll give them the edge.
Yeah, I always enjoy when you pick a team opposite of Baltimore. So
Yeah,
I'm just enjoying it.
it's always a 50-50 because sometimes I'll look like a genius and it'll actually come off, and sometimes Baltimore will prove me wrong. Well, they'll prove me right sometimes, but we'll see. But the Sunday nighter, this is the game maybe of the season, just because of the storyline narrative that's going to come out of it. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers and Tom Brady going back to Foxborough to face Bill Belichick. I think this will blow for the Buccaneers just because I think Tom Brady is going to be a man possessed.
This is going to be the controversial pick.
Oh, oh,
I am
oh.
picking the Patriots.
Okay.
I'm riding on Bill Belichick having an answer for Tom Brady and the offense. No one knows Tom Brady better than Bill
That's
Belichick.
true.
And you can say the same of Brady. No one knows Belichick better than Brady. But look, the way everyone's been marketing this game has really been the Brady versus Belichick game. That's how this whole story is playing out. And I just think Belichick, his mind with defense, he will have a response to Tom Brady.
Mm,
And the offense, there's a lot of good offensive players on Tampa Bay,
Bucks.
but offense
Yeah.
runs through the quarterback, and Belichick will have an answer to it. I believe if Tampa Bay Buccaneers do win, it will be a blowout. But I think personally, I see it as a close game that the Patriots will edge out.
Okay. The final
Controversial,
game,
I know it's
yeah,
controversial.
look, you could be right. There's definitely controversial NFL picks that worked out. This is the one league where you can never say never. The final game, the Monday nighter. These are two good teams. The 3-0 Raiders go into LA to face the Chargers. This is another tough game to pick.
The Chargers, I'd say, it's
I agree. At home, coming off the
yeah.
momentum, I think the Raiders have been figured out a little bit against some good teams. I think when you have a good defense, and the Chargers definitely have a good defense, the Raiders struggle a little bit. I mean, Derek Carr, I mean, he'll definitely be throwing the ball, and he definitely has weapons now.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't pick the Raiders every game, and I picked them last week to just edge it. Again, I just think the Chargers at home, I'll back the home team because I think they're you know what, if I'm being honest, I think they are slightly better than the Raiders anyways on
They are.
paper.
On
And
paper,
I
they're
think
better.
coming off a win against the Chiefs, I lost their last home game against the Cowboys as well. I think they want to get a home win on the board. I think it happens against Vegas on Monday night.
And honestly, I think Raiders, I think they're due for a loss soon.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, so we're kind of on the same page, not really on the same page as some others, but we will see how this week folds out. This has been another episode of 5-5 Sports. We hope you guys enjoyed listening, and we'll be back next week with our full predictions. We'll have our record. We'll make sure that we are keeping track of that and we are accurate with that because, as we know, that's very important for our pride and our ego. So until next week, thank you guys for listening.
In person.